What's going on, wrestling fans? You are now tuned in to the PA Power Hour. I am Jeff Upson, joined by Eric Knopsnyder. And Eric, you got a nice shirt on here today, a Pitt Wrestling Club shirt. I'm hoping I get one of those.
I got one for you. I got one for Dyson. Trying to convert you guys from all that WVU nonsense that you talk about. Get you a little Pitt gear, little Pitt Wrestling Club gear that I was able to pick up at the golf outing last week. So hooking you guys up.
We appreciate that, and as a WVU graduate, I will still proudly support the Pitt Wrestling Club. Actually, the biggest news out of there had to be Keith Gavin is strapping him back up, man. And I have to tell you, in your interview with him, like, you made it. I'm surprised he didn't take you down, because you were like, you are like really old and all this stuff. I'm like, oh my, Keith, if I was you, I would knock him out. Were you afraid when you're asking?
Didn't realize it came off as that hard hitting of an interview. But no, it was really interesting, because I was out on the course and, little name drop here, but Josh Deputy, the Chestnut Ridge coach, was in our foursome. And so we're playing, and he's looking at his phone, and all of a sudden he's like, Keith Gavin's wrestling in the Flow event. And I'm like, what? So that was how the news got broken to me, was Josh seeing it on his phone. And so, I had to ask Keith about that. I mean, the guy's pushing 40, I think, and getting back into it, against some of the top guys in the sport. But I think, looking at it, I mean, I would think that he has to be, for me, probably in the top three. Gabe Dean, I think, is up there, Miles Martin. But I mean, I don't think that Keith is going to be outclassed by anybody in that weight class.
I mean, I would be surprised if he is. He's made, I think, 6 national teams. He's a world team member. I mean, back in when he was wrestling freestyle, when he was at Ohio Regional Training Center, I mean, he was lights out. I mean, if it wasn't for Jake Herbert, he probably would have been one of the top guys in the nation to make an Olympic team. So, I think it's. I don't know if he's pushing 40. I mean, he's maybe like 36.
Maybe not quite there yet,
30.
But he graduated in 2008?
Yeah, around then. So he's 35, 36, 37. I don't know. He's not
36. I mean, he's.
Come on.
He's not 40 yet, but probably 36.
All right. Well, I think he has a very good shot of doing some good things here at the 8-man bracket, 195 pounds. I think it's really cool to see him going. So it should be a lot of fun. Eric, let's talk a little bit about our main event, True Power. Before we get into that, let's talk about the Battle of the Burgh. Which is ironic, because
it wasn't in the Burgh.
It wasn't in the Burgh, right? We looked at it and we're like, well, it's actually supposed to be in Pittsburgh, in Monroeville Convention Center. They moved it out to outside of Philly, and I heard there were some issues there as well. I heard they had to clear the gym because the Department of Health showed up and all this stuff. Which, by the way, Super 32 is going to be held in Myrtle Beach Convention Center. Myrtle Beach Convention Center is like the C3 up in State College. They're getting a lot of wrestling business recently. Myrtle Beach has had a ton of wrestling events held there, and Super 32 is probably going to be the biggest one. But Battle of the Burgh, were you able to look at any of the results, Eric? Did anything jump off at you?
Yeah, I saw a little bit of them. Some things that were going on there. A lot of big names in that event. So definitely some stuff that as far as I looked at, I think Anthony Mutarelli, if you're kind of going from lightest up to heaviest of Council Rock South, I think he was undefeated on the weekend, 9-0 with some good wins there.
Yeah, I mean, and there was actually, when I looked at this, there was a bunch of True Power competitors that wrestled in it. In fact, one of them was a match that we're going to see at True Power, was wrestled at the Battle of the Burgh. So clearly there was a lot of good talent there, a lot of good action. Bo Bassett from Forest Hills went undefeated, 9-0. He beat Landon Bainey 16-4, which is a pretty good win for him. Landon Bainey's a guy who's been a multiple-time PJW state medalist. Nico Finella from Indiana area, he went undefeated, 9-0. That's all at 98 pounds. And Nathan Desmond, who's going to be wrestling Bo Bassett at True Power, he went 9-0. I was hoping they didn't meet. because I kind of wanted to save that for True Power, but they did all go undefeated at 98 pounds. Kale Nasdio from Williamsport, he went undefeated 9-0 at 106 pounds. He had a nice win over Carson Wagner from Northampton, 6'4". Carson Wagner was a state medalist last year, so that was a big win for him. Dalton Perry from Central Mountain, another guy who we're going to see at True Power. He went undefeated. He actually wrestled at 106 pounds. He's wrestling 113 against Vincent Kilkeary at True Power. He went 9-0. He beat Hunter Robeson, who was at General McLean, then he was at Quaker Valley. I'm not sure where exactly he's going to end up this year. He pinned him in 17 seconds. So
that's pretty fast.
And Perry's only an 8th grader. So, but probably the most impressive, one of the most impressive performances came at 113 pounds. Nick O'Neill from Malvern Prep, who'll be a freshman this year. He beat Dom Flatt from Solanco. He beat him. He pinned him in under a minute. Dom Flatt was a state qualifier last year. Tyler Chappell, a very tough sophomore, he beat him in tiebreaker. And Caden Milham from Warrior Run, he beat him as well, 6-0. So very good performance from the Malvern Prep guys. And we got a couple of them competing in True Power as well. Colin Rath from Becca, he went undefeated 9-0. He pinned Derek Keene from Central Mountain, who was a state medalist last year up in District 6. So that was a good win for him. Tyler Kasak, another Becca kid, he went 9-0. He beat Charlie Bunting from Nazareth 7-3. Those guys had wrestled a bunch of times last year. And Cale McIntyre, also from Becca. So you see a trend here. These Becca guys have been wrestling a lot. And I was impressed with all of them, those lightweights. You know, they all did pretty well. Bo Bassett, Nate Desmond, set it up for a nice match at True Power, Eric.
Yeah, that as you said, Becca. I mean, some really impressive performances there at Battle of the Burgh, and you know, you mentioned it as well that Malvern Prep just keeps churning out guys that you know, just impressive youngsters, and you know, now you add those to the mix that you have of the guys like Nick Feldman, and you know, all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is a really strong program.
Yeah, I mean, they just continue to pump out talent, and Nate Lauder and you know, his staff there, they just continue to get, you know, just high quality guys and just take them to the next level. You look at what they've been able to do, just with guys that are, you know, freshmen going into their sophomore years. They just really been jumping levels. Jack Waymeyer is one of those guys that I think kind of really jumped up levels. You know, last year he was in a lot of good battles. Continuing on with the Battle of the Burgh, Dylan Chappell, 2-time state runner-up, he went undefeated 9-0. Cade Wernzenberger from Meadowbrook Christian went 9-0, wrestled at 126 pounds. So I'm kind of surprised to see him up a little bit that high. Gable Strickland from Benton went undefeated. Griffin Walliser from Central Mountain went undefeated. Jude Swisher, who we know is going to be wrestling in True Power against Kyle Hauserman, he went 9-0 at 132 pounds. He beat Matt Repos from Central Dauphin, who was state 4th last year at 106 pounds. So he's really jumped up in weight. But Jude was
7-1, I think that one was too. So pretty convincing too.
Yeah, 7-1. Nathan Lucier from Coatesville, he went 7-0. He's always been, we saw him at the Surge, and he's always been right on the you know, kind of the cusp of doing big things, I think, out of District 1. He also beat Josh Miller 4-1. That's a rematch from the Surge from last year. He also beat Carson Manville. And if you don't know it, or you know yet, the Manvilles are landed in Pennsylvania. They're going to be going to State College. I know they've been bouncing around from different states, Minnesota, Virginia, Pennsylvania. They were at SEM for a little bit, but they are now going to be in Pennsylvania at State College. So that's pretty big. And then at 145 pounds, AHR, Alejandro Herrera Rondon, he took 9-0 record home with him. He beat Matt Sarbo from Altoona 5-2. Probably the bigger, you know, that was probably one of the biggest matches he had, Eric.
I didn't realize Sarbo was up that high now too at 45.
Yeah, I mean, he was 132 last year.
Was it 32 last year?
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, he's filled out, I think. I think he's definitely filled out. You know, he just recently committed to Lock Haven, and he and Tommy Dressler from Spring Grove both committed to Lock Haven, and in the same day, I believe. Connor Eck from Bensalem, Another guy who had a good offseason. He beat, if you remember, he beat Levi Haynes earlier this year or earlier this summer. He went 8-0. Eric Gibson, 160 pounds, went undefeated 9-0. The biggest match was him against AJ Corrado. Again, that's a preview of what's going to be seen at True Power. And Gibson beat him 8-7. That was a tight match. I got to see that one. I watched it on replay, and man, I think we're in for some fireworks, hopefully, at True Power between Corrado and Gibson, Eric.
Yeah, we talked about it before. We think this is going to be a really fun match where both guys are not afraid to go out and let it fly and try to score some points. And you see that there with a 15-point total points between them. So, and you said that the Corrado had Gibson in trouble at one point too.
Yeah, he definitely did. And, but that's I think that's summer wrestling, that's off-season wrestling. They just kind of let it fly a little bit. And, Gibson may have put himself in a position where he wasn't, as comfortable, and next thing you know, Corrado's able to capitalize on that. But yeah, that was a good match, 8-7. I hope we can see something similar to that at True Power between these two. Enzo Merlocki, who was at Kiski, then he went to Sem. Now apparently he's back at Kiski, and he actually just committed to Lehigh. He gave a verbal to Lehigh, which very impressive for him. He had a really good. I went back and watched, I think, 5 of his 9 matches just to see his progression, see how he's been improving. And man, he looked good. He wrestled at 170 pounds. He went 9-0. He beat Ryan Wyant, state medalist, 7-2. He beat Harrison Trahan from McDonough, who's a national prep medalist. He also was able to beat Lance Urbis, who was a state qualifier last year, 4-2. So, and he looked really good in most of his matches. So Enzo, if he is back at Kiski, which I think he is, I think he's just going to add some more firepower. You got Sammy Starr coming back there for the Cavaliers. I'm excited to see Enzo. He was bumped out of the lineup last year. He had some weight stuff, and then him and Sammy Starr were going back and forth. So it's good to see him back on the mat, Eric.
Yeah, and like you said, those are 3 really good wins with Wyant, Trahan, and Urbis. Pretty solid weekend out of Enzo.
Anthony DeRusso from Becca, another Becca kid. He went undefeated at 182 pounds, 9-0. And then I just kind of jotted down some notable results that I saw going through that I thought were pretty impressive. Tommy Link beat Ethan Kolb. Jake Gafoyle from Wyoming Seminary beat Logan Ritchie. Hunter Swedish from Seneca Valley beat Charlie Bunton from Nazareth. One of the biggest ones was Scott Johnson from Muncie beating Aiden Lewis, a guy who we're going to see at True Power against Mac Church. Lewis is going to Bucknell, was a state runner-up last year. Scott Johnson is a sophomore this year. Had a good season last year, was a state qualifier, but that's a really big win for Johnson out of Muncie, Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. We know all about Aiden Lewis and how good he is. So, to get a victory there over him is pretty impressive.
District 3 guy, Matt Repos, Central Dauphin alum. I'm sad to see Matt Repos had a tough weekend. He lost to Eric Harnish as well from Lampeter Strasburg. For Harnish, that's a huge win for him. Harnish is, he's never really been a threat outside of District 3, but I think this is really, he's wrestled for Team Nauman Purple, and he got a really nice win over Repos 2-0 at 132 pounds. And same with Team Nauman's Cole Bartram from Northern. He was able to get a win over Brandon Bauer from Williamsport. That was a 5-3 win. Very impressed with him. Josh Miller from Central Dauphin beat Pearson Manville. Andrew Christie beat Connor Haar from, he was a Muncie kid. Now he's going to be a Mifflinburg kid. So, Andrew Christie is a guy who we saw in the Surge finals last year against Mason Gibson. So, and Malachi Duval, he beat up Matt Furman. He tech-falled him 19-4. There was a lot of good matches here at the Battle of the Burgh, Eric. We got to see a lot of good talent going at it.
And looking down through the list there, I mean, a lot of Team Nauman success there too. Some big wins out of those guys.
Yeah, I thought Brooks Gable from Dallastown, he was wrestling for Team Nauman Purple. He beat Ryan Wyant from Forest Hills. Ryan Wyant's another guy who had a tough weekend. Carson Manville. So if you remember Carson Manville, he was we saw him in Fargo several years ago, Eric, probably when he was a freshman. Kid's a monster.
Yeah, and he was outstanding.
Yeah.
But injuries have really
plagued
taken
him.
a toll on him. We saw a picture of his arm, and it looked like a baseball with all the stitches running through it. Just a horrible looking surgery that he had to have there on it, and try to get it all fixed. So hopefully he's back to full strength now, and he can show what he's capable of.
And he's going to be a force out of State College, wrestling in the PIAA now. He's kind of putting people on notice. He had a good weekend. He beat Nolan Lear from Benton, Harrison Trahan, and Brooks Gable. He beat all of them at Battle of the Burgh. Colby Franklin beat Joey Milano, pinned him. That's a huge match. Colby Franklin, guy who was a state runner-up, national prep finalist, beat Joey Milano, who we recently committed to NC State. Joey Milano, on the flip side, beat Cade Rogers from Malvern Prep. Again, another Malvern Prep kid that, he was at Penn Manor. He's now at Malvern Prep, really jumped levels. So I was impressed with him. Jake Lucas from Cumberland Valley beat Josh Harkless from Wilson. And Gunnar Tribely from Meadowbrook Christian, another Meadowbrook Christian wrestler here, he beat Dustin Swanson from Garden Spot, who's a returning state medalist. He beat him. He pinned him in 4 minutes and 25 seconds. So overall, if you look at the team results, Team Shut Kai, and that's Kai for Kai Burkett. He won that team won the championship. M2 Training Center took second there, Eric. So, what do you think of these tournaments taking place? I know they were supposed to have the Columbus Day duels at the same venue, but because of this event, they shut it down, and now I think they're going to Myrtle Beach too. Everyone's going to Myrtle Beach. So, what are your thoughts on that, Eric?
I go back and forth on it. I get the safety issue, and we want to have everybody be safe, but I don't see anything coming out of events like these. If you saw that this happened, and then all of a sudden you had a huge spike in COVID numbers and people were put at risk, then I can see saying, yeah, we can't do this. This isn't legal. We got to shut it down. I can see it, but we're not seeing that. And then whenever you have the whole Carlisle car show fiasco where the state said, we can't have groups at all, and then you've got 20,000 people at a car show that they kind of implicitly signed off on, it's really hard to say, oh, no, you can't have your own events, but we're going to go ahead and take care of our people and make sure everything's good there.
Yeah, I agree with you. You saw what happened in State College with their events. In fact, Journeyman, the same weekend as True Power, is going to be going on at the C3 Sports Complex up in State College. And a lot of the guys who are competing in True Power are turning around and wrestling in Journeyman on Sunday. So, I'm assuming that whoever's in charge on there is going to have, their hands full with making sure, because the fines were levied to the organizers for the,
and there were huge fines. I know in State College.
Yeah, for and the organizer and I think the venue itself. So I don't know. It's one of those tough situations because you see, other things such as the Carlisle car show going on, and you're like, and especially the federal judge's ruling on Wolf's orders being unconstitutional. And now all of a sudden, you're using that as a way to say, well, okay, well, we can have these events, but I don't know.
And you're starting to see it more with high school events, that schools are opening up and kind of setting their own parameters instead of saying, okay, only 25 indoors and 250 outdoors. And we've talked about this before. It just doesn't make sense to me to have a set number whenever one venue holds 2,000 people and another holds 10,000. Obviously there's more room to spread out in that larger venue than there is in the smaller one. So just to put an arbitrary number on there doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it's inconsistent, and it doesn't apply, like you said, to other possible venues. And you have a junior high gym versus a community college size stadium. It's not comparable. So let's not get off too much on the rabbit hole here, Eric, because we got some True Power matches. We got the rest of the True Power matches to talk about tonight, and we've got some really big names and a pretty big surprise, in my opinion, that we're going to be talking about tonight, Eric. So, Eric, I got to ask you once: Are you ready to talk some True Power matches?
I am. We've got the complete card now. By the end of the night, it'll all be out there.
A lot of good matches, a lot of good wrestlers. We did have one change from a previous released match, and that comes at 125 pounds, and that is between Montana DeLauder from Gettysburg. She is now going to be wrestling Lily Scherer from Delaware Valley. And this is an interesting match because
this is a great match.
Credential-wise, this is a great match. Elena Barbera from Hatboro Horsham had to back out, unfortunately. Lily jumped up and said, you know what, if Montana is okay with it, I'll wrestle her. Lily's a little bit bigger, but Montana is completely down to do it, and she is, she's a competitor, man. She's these girls. I've been so impressed with just the enthusiasm of these girls. I wish, we could almost do like IA Wrestle did at Night of Conflict, where they had a girls' night on Friday night and Saturday night they had a boys' match. Maybe next year we can try to get an all women's card.
Well, we're getting more good news with more PIAA schools adding wrestling, adding girls wrestling, and as that number continues to grow and we get closer to that magical 100 school number that we need to get it as a potentially PIAA sanctioned sport, then I think that we'll be able to work towards that. Maybe in the future we can have things like this where we have enough really competitive and really good girls that we can put on a first class event with just the girls. That would be awesome to see.
Was that sarcasm, this magical 100 number you said?
No, I mean that's what it's at. That's what we have to get to.
But another arbitrary number.
Unless there's a Carlisle car show involved, and maybe they can lower that number for it.
Zing. Governor Wolf, if you're listening, please don't punish PA Power Wrestling. Lily is quite accomplished. She's a My House Girls Pennsylvania State champion and was a state runner-up in 2019. She was a 2018 Fargo Cadet finalist. She took third in 2019. She's ranked number 9 in the nation, but that was up. I think it may have been 130-something. It wasn't down low, so this one, I mean, there's going to be a size difference here, but man, talk about the credentials here. Both of these girls, Montana and Lily, are both ranked in the nation. Both of them have multiple stop signs from Fargo. They have state championships from the PA Girls State Tournament. I mean, this is great. I'm really excited for this match here, and I'm really glad that Lily jumped in and was like, I'll wrestle, no problem.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm really excited about this one. I think this is, how big of a weight difference is it? You said that she's coming up a little bit. Is it much? Is it
maybe 5 pounds? I think.
Okay, so nothing crazy. I mean, obviously in mid-season you don't want to be giving up 5 pounds to a really good competitor. But I think in the off season you see things like this without it being too big of a deal. So I'm excited to see these two let it fly.
Yeah, and I think you look at it and you're like, hey, we just want to scrap. They just want to they want to get on the mat.
And that's what we want out of wrestlers.
Exactly.
Yeah. You don't want to say, oh, well, that kid's 2 pounds heavier than me. I don't want to go, that might be too much. Just go out there, and especially as big as this event is and as important as it is to us, this is about seeing really good competition, us getting to see them get this competition, but it's about these kids having the opportunity to face really good competition too. In the end, does it matter if you lose the true power match? No. Go out there, let it fly, have some fun, and entertain.
It's all about getting mat time and getting that competition, that high level competition, almost like a simulation of what it's going to be like when you're in the finals of a Powerade or an Escape the Rock. This is what we're trying to emulate. We couldn't do the Surge, we couldn't have the full on tournament that we love having. So instead, we're just doing the best we can to try to put together a pretty sweet card, and I think we have, and I think this girls matches are a key component to that. I think it's very important that we branch out into the girls wrestling and support girls wrestling and really continue to support the Sanctioned PA event that's going on here in Pennsylvania. Eric, you want to go release a new card now because we got a replacement there with Lily jumping in for Elena. You want to move on to another
Sure.
New releasement?
Jump up to 120?
We can jump up to 120. So I know I'm going to get in trouble for this because I say they're all my favorite. I'm like, oh, this is going to be my favorite. All right, this one seriously may be like top 3 favorite matches of True Power. It better not be a 1-0 match. I guess it could be a 1-0 match as long as there's some good action here. I like this one because it's the old guard versus the new guard, Eric. And without further ado, let's check out our match at 120 pounds. Eric, just kidding, Mason Gibson of Forest Hills versus Gary Steen of Reynolds. Man, this one is going to be fun. And I love the picture that Mason has with his Super 32 belt, his 4 PJW state championships around his neck. And then, of course, you got Gary Steen from Reynolds, 2-time state champion. You got the third place medal from his sophomore year that he had to battle back to. Showed a lot of strength during adversity. Gary Steen's going to Pitt. Mason Gibson is just starting his high school career. He already has so many accolades to his name, including a high school level Super 32 championship, Eric. This is just a fire matchup here. The strength and speed of Mason Gibson versus the savviness and just resiliency of Gary Steen. I mean, just finds a way to win at all times. I mean, we see him against Brent Unger last year, Joey Fisher in the state finals. That was such a good match, man. These guys are just going to put it out and lay it on the line. Man, I can't wait for this one. Again, top 3, one of my favorite matches of True Power, Eric.
Well, and I know you always love seeing the freshmen, to see how they're going to do in a big situation. Obviously, Mason a little bit different because we've already seen him at Super 32 and going down there and winning a high school title. So that pressure isn't going to be anything that he's going to falter under, that he's going to be able to go out there and wrestle his best, even knowing that he's facing high level competition in this and with a lot of eyeballs on him. So that's not going to be anything new. And of course, Gary Steen, this is nothing new at all to him. He's kind of been there, done that before with the state titles, facing so many good guys over the years. And yeah, so this is a really intriguing one for me to see these two guys go at it. That, as you said, is kind of a young guy versus, if you can call a Gary Steen an old guard, but whenever he's heading into his senior year, yeah, he's obviously got the experience factor on his side.
Yeah, I mean, a senior versus freshman, this is exactly what we wanted to see and see where Mason is, because surprisingly they were in the same bracket at Super 32 that Mason won. Which is kind of surprising because Gary, I don't think a lot of people were expecting to be down at 106 at the Super 32 last year. And they actually never wrestled, and they didn't have any common opponents down in, I was going to say South Carolina, but at that time it was North Carolina where they had the match, the Super 32. They didn't wrestle and they didn't have any common opponents, but Mason was able to squeeze out some really big wins. If you remember his run to the title, Gary had some just tough matches. I don't know if it was a weight cut thing. I don't know if it was, he was the top seed there actually at 106 pounds. So, but Gary then turned around and had just such a phenomenal season. Let's keep in mind, he won the Ironman, he won the Powerade, and he won a state title. I don't know if it gets much better than that. That's
a pretty good trifecta.
That's really, in the sport of wrestling in Pennsylvania, can you get better than Ironman, the toughest tournament in the nation, Powerade, probably the second or third best tournament in the nation, and then Pennsylvania, arguably the toughest state to win a state title in. And look at how he did it. He beat Brent Unger. They split some matches this year. He beat Joey Fisher. This
Fargo
one's gonna,
national champ,
This one's gonna be fire. This one's gonna be absolutely fire. I really can't wait for this one, Eric.
Have you not to interrupt you here and kind of throw a curveball at you, but have you talked to Mason recently? I've seen some pictures of him where he was a little banged up. Is he going to be at full strength? Do we know anything yet as far as his injury goes?
Yeah, I mean he was a little banged up, but he was able to work through that, and actually just saw he was up at M2 Training Center, and he was training with some of those guys there. So okay. Yeah, I think he's gonna be good to go, Eric.
Good.
Okay, that one was a big one, right? That's a pretty big one with Steen versus Gibson, but we talked about him before. We talked about him having wrestled Gary Steen in the state finals. We got another match here with a familiar name that I want to talk about. This one is at 129 pounds, Eric. I like this one because these guys are both guys that are hungry. They wanted. They were in the state finals. They didn't get the title that they wanted, so now they get to go head to head here and see who comes out on top. This is 129 pounds, and this will be Dylan Chappell of Seneca Valley versus Joey Fisher of South Park. Eric, Dylan Chappell, we know his story. A two-time state runner-up, lost in the state finals to Carter Dybert. Last year, he lost to Will Betancourt from Manheim Central in the state finals at 120 pounds. Joey Fisher, on the other hand, he was a state runner-up to Gary Steen. That was a crazy match. That flurry to end it in overtime was kind of insane. Both these guys, and it's interesting because they're both from the WPIAL. They've both been at the same weight for several years, but they've never wrestled each other, Eric. They've had some common opponents, but they've actually never wrestled each other. Their common opponents last year were Dylan Coy from North Allegheny, Dayton Delvesco from Malvern Prep, and Kyle Hauserman. They both wrestled. I love this matchup because two kind of differing styles. I think that the weight's going to be interesting to see because Fisher, at least from his photos, he looks bigger. Eric, do you agree?
Yeah, actually, he looks like he's hit the weights really hard. He's showing off the guns there. And he was a guy, as you remember, when he was in Fargo, a couple years ago, wrestled up in level but down in weight, and won that national title. And it was kind of I'm not going to say he was a really, really small 6-pounder at times, but he's really kind of grown up over the past couple years, and now looking really solid here at 129. And yeah, I think he's definitely put some time in the weight room. And going back to what you said for a second, you talked a little bit about how these two hadn't seen each other, and that's one of the things that I like. I know you were a big fan. We talked about it before of shoot, now I'm blanking on it. The
Clash of Champions.
Double A versus Triple. Yeah. And so this is awesome to see, kind of those Double A versus Triple A guys that even though they're in the same area, they're not hitting each other just because of the differences there and the different tournaments that they're at. So this is a really fun one for me to see the Double A versus Triple A aspect of it.
I thought we were going to see these guys go at it at Powerade last year. Chappell, he's returning state runner-up. Fisher was at the time returning state fourth, and they actually didn't wrestle. Chappell was upset by Aiden Lewis, and he was knocked down, and then rattled off a ton of, I think, six straight or 7 straight matches to take third. Now, Fisher took fifth at Powerade at the same weight. They both wrestled Gregor McNeil of Wyoming Seminary, and Chappell beat him to take third, 8-6. McNeil beat Fisher 7-3. So their common opponent last year was McNeil at the Powerade tournament. Now, as we mentioned, Fisher was a state finalist. He had that great match with Steen. They're both Division I recruits. Dylan's going to Bucknell, and Joey Fisher's going to Clarion. So very cool to see two guys that are staying home in Pennsylvania to continue their academic and athletic careers. And two good kids. I think both these guys are very honored to be in True Power. And, honestly, I think this one's going to be fire. I think it's another one, kind of like we talked about with Gibson and Steen. I think we're going to see some points scored on the board, Eric. Yeah,
this one, I think it's going to be a really fun one, as I said, just kind of the unknown. I mean, I'm sure they bumped into each other at places before and, maybe scrapped a time or two. But this is the first time we're actually going to get to see them go at it, and that should be fun.
Okay, so, Eric, before we go on to our final matches here, we got a couple more to talk to you about. We're going to take a break for the Tactful Mind and my good friend Nick Fuller over at the tactfulmindllc.com. We'll be right back in 30 seconds.
This is the Tactical Mind, and I work with athletes in the field of sports psychology as a cognitive performance coach. Within 5 minutes of talking to a parent, they make the connection right away that this would be great for my kid to have when they're in college, when they're just going through the ups and downs of high school. Who wouldn't benefit from having more self-awareness? Who wouldn't benefit from having the ability to self-regulate our emotions and our counterproductive thoughts? Who wouldn't benefit from having more optimism, not just on the field, but in life?
And of course, you can visit the tactfulmindllc.com. You can use the promo code POWER to receive 50% off your initial consultation. And Nick Fuller knows about wrestling. He's a graduate of Easton. He and Jordan Oliver were in the same grade, and he didn't wrestle, but you don't go to Easton and not be familiar with wrestling. It's like going to Alabama and not knowing anything about football. I mean, come on, like you know a little bit about the sport. So we talked about our True Power matches, right? We talked about Lily Scher replacing Elena Barbaro against Montana DeLauder. We also talked about Mason Gibson versus Gary Steen at 120 pounds, the new versus old guard. And we also had a WPIAL. You look at where these guys are in their careers. Ian is going into his senior year. Cole's going into his junior year. Ian is one of the top unsigned or uncommitted seniors in Pennsylvania. We saw his teammate AJ Corrado recently commit to Brown. Ian is uncommitted, and I'm sure there's a lot of coaches knocking on his door to try to talk to him. He is finished.
Figuratively knocking on his door. Zoom knocking on his door.
Yeah, I mean, virtual knock. You could do those things, a virtual knock. Ian has placed 4th, 5th, and 2nd at the state tournament. So just like his teammate AJ Corrado, he's a 3-time state medalist. They're both state runner-ups. Last year, Ian lost to Brock McMillan in the state finals. They wrestled at the regional tournament. They were going back and forth, back and forth. Ian is just was very close. He was very close in that one. Could help him a lot, or could hurt him coming into the season. I think these are going to help him. I think he's not going to be discouraged by this, and look at True Power like, hey, this is my time to prove it on the the big stage, so to speak, against a very tough opponent. I mean, Luke Augustine has a lot of credentials. Like I said, there's a reason why Pitt really wanted him. So you got Virginia Tech versus Pitt here, Eric. Good thing it's not football, or your Pitt Panthers may
What
be
are you
in trouble.
talking about?
What, is Pitt good this year?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Who'd they beat? Louisville.
Better record than West Virginia.
Okay, all right. We lost to Oklahoma State. It's a rebuilding year for the Mountaineers. I don't need to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, give me that crap. Pitt's the don't even get me started. Never have done. It's funny because I ran into a guy that I haven't seen in years, and he was wearing a Pitt mask. I was like, oh, I totally forgot you went to Pitt. And he was like, yep. He said, look at all the guys we have in the NFL. Never had a really good team in the past 10 years. Like, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, Eric. I know I'm depressing you. I think this is Luke Augustine and Trey Kibe could be a sneaky good match. It may not have the pizzazz like a Gary Steen and a Mason Gibson match, but I think this one is going to be a pretty good one, Eric. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think it definitely has the potential to be that, and we can kind of look at Luka and see, how much of a step has he made up there? Is he ready to be at the top of that podium? And so this will be a good litmus test for him because we know what Trey Kibe is, we know what he can do, and so this will be a really good point where Luka can look at it and say, hey, am I where I want to be, or do I need to really make another step up to get to the top of that podium?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they both have national accolades. Trey was a Super 32 placer, and that bracket, with Lenny Pinto maxed out, and Trey and Angel Garcia, they were just monsters in that bracket. I mean, it was the toughest bracket for a reason. Luka, on the other hand, at 160, I think he was a little frustrated taking 5th. I think he probably wanted to be up in that top 4 to top 3 range at 160 pounds, but it's tough. It's and look at how consistent he was last year. I think these two are both looking to, trend upwards, if you will. All right, Eric, that's 17 matches. 17.
Is it time for the surprise?
17 matches. When is the surge? When is True Power, Eric?
October 17th.
All right, so we're not going to move it to the 18th, right? But we got it. We're
sticking on the 17th.
We're sticking on the 17th. But we got an 18th, man, and this one is going to be killer. I feel like I'm on a Flow Radio Live right now talking. Man, this one's going to be awesome. It's going to be pretty. It's going to be pretty good. We got 2 guys who have done it all, and it's going to take us 10 minutes just to read their credentials here. Eric, this one's not a junior high match. This is not a girls match. This is not a high school match. We got a senior level freestyle showdown between 2 guys who have done the ultimate and finished as All-Americans in Division I wrestling. So without further ado, Eric, here it is. There it is, man. Strong beard game from Kyle Shoop from Boiling Springs. I love it. Rodney Wright's proud of seeing him there. We got Kyle Shoop versus Brock Zacherle. Brock Zacherle was practically begging people to wrestle him. Like, hey, come on, somebody wrestle me. Who was it? Astronaut went down and against Pletcher at Flo's event.
Right, yeah.
You know, he's like, put me in, coach. I'm ready to play. Dude's, kid's a competitor. I love Brock Zacherle. I think he's such a good person and a good advocate for the sport of wrestling. Just his journey, through injuries, the perseverance that he had, the guts he has. I mean, I can remember him posting a photo after his surgery that said, it was something along the lines of like 2020 NCAA champion, him just out of surgery. The kid is a competitor. He said, I don't care what weight, I don't care who it is. I just want to wrestle somebody. And man, I can't wait because he's wrestling Kyle Shoop, who's for 2 years straight in the NCAA, he led the nation in Tech Falls. He was a Tech Fall leader for 2 years. Of course, in 2019 in Pittsburgh, he had just such an incredible run to an NCAA All-American finish, placing 7th in Pittsburgh. Both these guys, I say kids because they're not kids, they're freaking men.
Yeah, look at that beard. Come on.
I know. I couldn't grow that for sure.
No, me neither. He does have a little more hair than me, but not much.
Yeah, he's still holding on to it. Kyle's still holding on to it. It may be time to let it go. Just he could still do something really cool with just a beard and nothing on top. Do you agree, Eric?
Yeah. I tried it once. It didn't look good on me.
It didn't look good. Well, my hair is like one of the only things I have going for me. I got a big, broken, crooked nose. I don't really have much else, so my hair is something I hold on to. Let's look at the history of these guys, okay? These guys wrestled before. The last time they wrestled was in March of 2018. It was March 3rd of 2018, and it was Zacherle beating Kyle 6-1 at 141 pounds in the EWL semifinals. Brock went on to finish second there. Shoop, he's a 4-time NCAA qualifier, if you count 20. Like, he was a qualifier in 17, 18, 19, and 20. He would have obviously went in 20. He was a NCAA All-American in 2019. Very, very impressive career for him. And a guy who, coming out of high school, he never won a state title. He was second once and third twice. He was 163 and 32 at Boiling Springs. I mean, those Boiling Springs guys with him and Corbin Myers and just the amount of talent that Rodney Wright and those guys were able to produce out of Boiling Springs in District 3, the Bubblers, man. I know you're familiar with them because you were always covering Chestnut Ridge, and it seemed like they always matched up first round
and
of
always
team
lost.
states.
Yeah. Like they just could not get past them.
Right. So one of these guys have history. Two, they both have a lot of wins in their careers. Zacherle, on the other hand, 4-time NCAA qualifier, 16, 17, 18, and 20, and he got that 5th year of eligibility or 6th year eligibility with that medical red shirt because he took a red shirt, and then he also had an injury year. Comes back in 2020 looking to be an All-American. He was a 7th seed. People forget this. Zacherle was a 7th seed at NCAAs in 2018. He didn't make it to the podium, but I mean, he was right there in the mix. He went 114 and 17 at Clarion. He was named National Wrestling Coaches Association second team All-American. He's now on staff at Clarion. I can't wait to have Brock, competing against Kyle. Two just tremendous individuals. I couldn't be more excited to have these guys, Eric.
Yeah, and you talked about Zacherle. I mean, those are really, really good accolades. I mean, 114 and 17 in college is really that's impressive. And like you said, he was wrestling so well. To have that taken away from the opportunity to go out there and earn the All-American status, as opposed to just having it placed upon you, so to speak. I know the hunger, and as you've said, we've seen it on social media that he's just like, come on, I just want to wrestle someone. Like, give me somebody to get my hands on. So, Kyle Shoop, I don't know if that's a good thing to be in that situation or not, where Brock Zacherle's this hungry, but no, I think it's going to be a really fun match, and just a kind of the cherry on top, or the icing on top of the cake. I mean, just a phenomenal one that we didn't even really know was going to happen initially, and this all just kind of came together. And credit to Dyson, who, Dyson has been the driving force behind so much a True Power, and he was really pushing for this to get a match like this on the card. So it's great. I'm really looking forward to this.
Dyson's like a little dog, a little dog that just you throw the ball and he gets it and brings it back, and you throw it 20 more times and he's still bringing it back, and you're like, dude, come on, take a nap, lay down.
My arm's getting tired.
My arms getting tired. My ankles are bitten. Dyson just doesn't stop. After the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club event, he
on Rockfin.
On Rockfin. Shout out Cale Sanderson and the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club. After that event, he was like, we should do a senior level match. I guarantee you Brock Zacherle would do it. And I'm like, that was a heck of a event that they put on, but we can't add another match to this card. And he was like, I'm reaching out to Brock. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
It like 10 minutes. He's like, all right, I got it set up.
Right. I mean, he's
Brock's down.
Yeah, of course Brock's down. Brock. So we were actually you didn't know this, Eric, but you were gonna be our sacrificial. We were gonna throw you.
I was gonna. I don't think I could make 155.
Well, we were gonna throw you out there. So we were gonna say, Brock, I don't care what Eric says on the scale, you're gonna wrestle him. Yeah. So it wasn't.
Thank you, Kyle Shoop.
Yeah. Thank you, Kyle. So this
This
was definitely not planned. This kind of just naturally or organically happened thanks to Dyson and just the way of the world right now. And we couldn't be more happy to have these guys. This is an interesting matchup because I told you how Brock beat Shoop 6-1, but that was back in 2018. Now Kyle took definitely strides and jumps from 2018 to 2020, if you will. But it's going to be competed in freestyle, which I think favors Zacherle. And a lot of people forget this as well. Zacherle was on the world team at 60 kilograms, but then Joey McKenna, who was in Final X finals, ended up kind of doing a special wrestle off for that spot. So this was for the junior world team at the time. This is when Joey McKenna wrestled Logan Stieber in the Final X, and he elected to, after Final X, after failing to make the senior world team, he went back down to the junior world team after Brock won the trials. So Brock won the junior world team trials at 60 kilograms, was all set to wrestle overseas, but then McKenna came in and they had a special wrestle off and McKenna beat him. So, but Zacherle's got some freaking experience in freestyle. He's not afraid to mix it up in freestyle. So I think I give the edge, if it's freestyle, to Brock a little bit, just based on, now size is going to be a factor here too. 155 is where they're wrestling. Both these guys kind of saw different action between 141 and 149 in their careers. I don't know. It's going to be a lot of fun. I do know that. I know Brock's just an accomplished wrestler. Finished 7th, 4th, and 1st in 3 trips to Hershey. So he won that at state title his senior year, 130-15 at Brookville. I mean, does it get any better than Brock Zacherle and Kyle Shoop, 2 NCAA All-Americans going at it head-to-head? And like you said, Eric, it's a cherry on top, man. This is the cherry on top of the whipped cream with the, drizzle of chocolate syrup all over it. Because this one is going to be, I can't wait. I can't wait for this one to kind of be our grand finale.
Yeah, it's an awesome opportunity. I think we've been able to see a lot of freestyle recently. As much wrestling as we can get after COVID hit. We've been able to see some senior level events, and everybody's it's kind of whet the appetite for that. So this is just an awesome dessert here on the menu as we get Kyle Shoop and Brock Zacherle to close out the night.
You've been bringing up dessert a lot, Eric. You need dinner, man? You
No,
hungry?
no, I'm good.
You're about to go get yourself a big cone or something.
I'm still trying to make 155 for this, just in case.
Just in case, Kyle. And dude, Kyle is I mean, talk about two guys that just want to compete. Kyle is going to be at the Matttown Open, the Matttown Lock Haven Fall Classic is what it was, and he's going to drive from Lock Haven to Tyrone to wrestle Brock. I mean, he's just going to show up, throw on the gear, and just go at it, man. I mean, what a competitor. Super excited for that
awesome.
one. So those are our 18 matches. Those are 18 high-level matches. Again, you can catch this all live on Rockfin on Saturday, October 17th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you watched Night of Conflict, IA Wrestle put on last weekend, Friday and Saturday night, great event. You know, I told Tony Hager from them, I said, you put the, you know, you definitely had big shoes for us to follow up on because they had a great event there. They also had fans. We're not going to have fans. I was a little bit different than Pennsylvania right now. And I can't wait. I can't wait, Eric, to get this thing rolling. And, you know, now that we've released all 18 cards, you know, matches, this is just going to be, I can't wait to hear what fans have to say, you know, what matches they're looking forward to, and really predictions as well for what's going to happen, Eric.
Yeah, I think that's going to be, you know, a great reaction from the Pennsylvania wrestling community. You know, we were able to see some action in Pennsylvania over the past couple weekends, whether it was the NLWC event, you know, the battle in the Burgh, some different things going on. So, you know, really kind of getting us going as we get closer and closer to what we hope is going to be, you know, as normal a season as possible. And this is just a great event to get us rolling right into it.
I can't wait, Eric. You're going to be hearing a lot more from our competitors in the next couple of weeks. We're going to be doing a lot of shows with bringing on some of the guys that are and girls that are competing in True Power. We're going to bring them on as guests and have some match talks and kind of pick their brains a little bit. So be on the lookout for that. I know Dyson's itching to, Dyson just needs to stop playing football and start focusing on his career in wrestling, right? And because, I know he's just chomping at the bit right now to get on the air and talk about True Power matches. He's got so much to say, Eric.
Yeah, but, you got to represent the Chucks there and, put on the football uniform. Props to him. It takes a lot of passion and a lot of guts whenever you're that size to be on the varsity football team and, trying to help out the team there.
Absolutely it is. And Eric, before we go, I want to mention that you had said how Pennsylvania is getting more girls programs sanctioned. Governor Mifflin and Annville Cleona, both out of District 3, have signed on to sponsor girls wrestling as a sport. So we got 2 more. I think that's 7. I think we're up to 7 now. I'll have to double check.
7 or 8. And I know I've talked to a couple people that in my area that it sounds like we're going to have at least 1 or 2 in the kind of District 5, District 6 area there that are getting going. So I think we're going to see the numbers jump up pretty quickly. I think we'd be a lot further ahead if it hadn't been for COVID right now.
Right.
There's just so many things that people have to worry about right now, aside from trying to organize and get a girls program off the ground.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of programs that are on the bubble, so to speak, and I think you're going to see a lot of teams coming out, or a lot of school districts coming out saying that they're going to sponsor girls wrestling. And like you said, if it hadn't been for COVID, I think probably we'd see upwards of 20 teams already, or 20 schools already having girls wrestling. So, Eric, that is the PA Power Hour. Be sure to check out papowerwrestling.com. Visit us on Rockfin. Check out all the new content that we have. We have the class of 2022 recruiting rankings now posted up there. That's a very good list with Ryan Crookham at top of that. And we're going to have a lot more previews for True Power coming up here in the next couple days and weeks. So make sure you're tuned into us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the things that the kids are doing these days. We're on them. We're doing it, Eric. So until next time, Eric, thanks for joining. And I can't wait to get my Pitt Wrestling Club shirt, Eric. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's going to look good on you.
Absolutely, Eric. All right. Well, I will talk to you soon. Shout out to Brock Zacherle. Can't wait to have you. All right. See you, Eric.